84, 85, I played that year as a junior, and 85, 86 was my senior year, and that was the first year that Sac State went as a Division II school to scholarship. So
Man.
I was part of that transition of being the first group of guys to get scholarships. So knowing what I know now, being a guy that's done this for a living, literally I did not pass the athleticism test at all.
Yeah.
So what happened for me was after that, you know, coach gave me an opportunity to be a grad assistant.
Yeah.
You know, I took advantage of it. I
Here?
did. Yeah.
And I used to hear about those stories from Damon
Yeah,
Edwards.
yeah.
Damon Edwards is a former Sac State alum here too, and he used to tell me about the Salvation Army and how he used to be cracking up in there.
Man, it was insane. Like the guys, you know, Henry Turners of the world, and just so many really good players. But Tony was the first Sac State guy that you know, as far as my memory, that went to super high level in Turkey.
Yeah.
And then he made a lot of money in Israel. He was like made money playing ball. Let me backtrack. So I had a foundation of player development and not really knowing it because I like kind of made myself a player. So I grew up on an Air Force base. I had access to a gym. So I was just working on my own stuff. One of my buddies, Kurt Robinson, played at Metro State. So then the guys started asking me to work them out.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay.
What about that history and how it should be intertwined? What's your 2 cents on that, man?
Yeah, well, I think you know, you have to have the history of a place to have the totality of how successful the place has been. And for me, like, you know, looking in here, you know, I don't see much history. You know, there's some stuff that was up here that's not up here anymore. And there's some stories that are phenomenal stories. Christy Ryan led the nation in scoring from Sac State. 28.5 points a game, led the nation in scoring. She had 50 at Irvine one night. 50, a small forward from Sac State.
That's crazy.
So that's something that everyone should know, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what has to happen, or I think, you know, there's been some people that have tried to maintain that, but it definitely has to be celebrated. You know, as Sac State goes on to the next level, that shouldn't be forgotten.
All right, man. Legacy Lounge. Sometimes people want to talk.
We have an incredible guest here.
What's up, brother?
The definition of the Legacy Lounge is the stuff that he's putting together. He's a great community leader. His story is amazing.
How's it going, y'all? My name is Joseph Dawson. I am the host of Open Gym Live. I'm here with Rene Jux. He is a co-host for Legacy Lounge. We are bringing you some very exciting news with being here at Sac State. You see it in the background. We got, obviously, Mike Bibby's the hiring of the new coach. Shaquille O'Neal is the GM. And what a time to be here at Sacramento State. We've never had this here at Sac State. I'm a former basketball player at Sac State myself. I'm a Hall of Famer as well. Rene Jux, he was here for a year, Letterman. He was my college teammate, and we just came up with this idea. You know, once the news broke with Shaquille O'Neal being the general manager, because Rene was on the phone, and we were at our son's baseball game, and
Broke
he was
news
like,
to you, baby. I broke news to you.
"Yeah, you told me like you were sham, you know, like you were sham." And he said, "Shaq is going to be the general manager." And we were like, "Yeah, right." And then all of a sudden, news broke the next week, and I hit up Rene, and I was like, "Man, we should do a collab with getting us as much content with old Sacramento former basketball players." You know, trying to get Dr. Luke Woods here on and get his take on everything that's going on, athletic director, Mr. Orr, and then also capturing our former Sac State Hall of Famers, you know, guys that have had success here at Sacramento State. And it's a very good feeling to just be here and a surreal feeling to appreciate, you know, what we've done here at Sac State and also feel respected as well for everything that we put in here, the blood, sweat, and tears. Rene, you got anything with that?
Listen, it's a great collaboration here. I was excited to do it, getting the Legacy Lounge and Open Gym podcast together. But the main reason is, and what I'm super blessed to be able to start with, is somebody who is a Sacramento State legend, Sacramento area legend, and knows the history of Sac State more than anybody, not only because of being a pioneer that plays here, but has had his hand in anybody significant coming through this program since then. You've trained so many people. You've been such a mentor for people. So honored to start this collaboration with Guss Armstead. Thank you for joining us today, man.
No problem, man. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Yes,
No
sir.
problem.
So what time you started here and you played? What was the years that you were here?
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
I came to Sacramento in September of 1984
Mm-hmm.
from Allen Hancock Junior College in Santa Maria, California.
Yes, sir.
Was raised in Lompoc, California.
Oh yeah, I didn't
Santa
know
Barbara
that.
County. So I came here in 84, 84, 85. I played that year as a junior, and 85, 86 was my senior year, and that was the first year that Sac State went as a Division II school to scholarship. So
Man,
I was part of that transition of being the first group of guys to get scholarships. So
insane. So the
Yeah.
first scholarship,
Yeah.
he's the pioneer of when they even started giving scholarships, man.
yeah.
Now, when that came about, when you got scholarship, how did that news break when you found out you were going to get some funding for school?
Well, for me, it was during my senior year. We brought in a lot of, I'll say, from my junior year, we brought in a lot of higher level players.
Yeah, yeah.
So my junior year started, played, primary minutes. But my senior year, I mean, there was some guys that came here that were, I really say they probably shouldn't have been here.
Yeah.
So, so Coach Brown, Bill Brown was our coach, and he did a really good job of connecting with some guys. Boyd Anderson High School in Fort Lauderdale. We had 3 kids from that team that played with Mitch Richmond in high school. And had some guys from the Bay Area, Alex Williams, who ended up being a Hall of Famer here, Chris Farr, guys like that. So basically, for me, it was just like, hey, man, there's some extra money.
Yeah.
And you probably can get some books.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Get you some Scantrons.
Yeah, I could get a little bit of something. But I mean, the time when I was here, it was different though. Because I
Yep.
remember when I came here, I think it was like $220
That's wild.
for me to like.
That's
and
wild.
I had to ask my pops for like, pops, I need 220, man. Just to pay for like the whole
Yeah,
semester. I think it was.
that's wild.
Yeah, so everything was different. But I think Sac State, the perception then was it was just a non-hoop school.
Right.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like it just was a non-hoop
No
school,
buzz
bro.
around here.
No buzz
No
around it.
culture at all.
No culture, no buzz. Like there's some history, but we weren't aware of it.
Yep.
If that makes sense. So
It wasn't recognized.
it wasn't recognized. So I mean, in my junior year, I mean, we were like 7-23. You know, and probably 3 of them wins was them schools you play in the
Oh
beginning.
yeah.
where
Oh
we-
yeah.
Preseason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Them preseason joints.
Yeah.
So yeah, we was trash.
Man, man.
So with your beginning, starting here,
Mhm.
did you play with? You didn't play with Sean Smart. Was Sean Smart around?
Yes, my senior year, Sean was a freshman.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sean was a freshman, and I actually remember going to see Sean play when I was a junior because one of my buddies that played, his little brother was playing against Sean when Sean was at North Highland. So we went and watched Sean play, and man, Sean
He
was
had bounce.
Sean was a man, high flyer.
Goofy foot bounce.
off the stand,
Yeah.
off the run, like pretty much everything. And he played with Scott Galbert, who was an NFL,
okay.
tight end for the Cowboys and the Redskins and a bunch of people. So they played together. And Highlands was super talented. So yeah, so Sean was a freshman when I was a senior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I know that obviously being here at Sac State and we was talking about it's not even really a mid-major school. It's really lower than even that. And the conference that it's in Big Sky, and obviously we're not really looked high or regarded as being a big conference, but at the same time, there's a lot of big-time players that have came out of here and gone abroad, to play and extend their career. Can you speak to once you were done with your career here, and what your story was, and how you stayed around?
I think my story was typical. Everybody thinks they can play.
Yep.
and I was no different, right? So
No question.
my little 5.7 points a game or whatever, right? I'm thinking, man, I could probably go make some money and go play somewhere.
Yeah.
So I went to the G League back then. It was called the CBA.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
went
yeah,
to the little CBA
sure.
tryout.
Yeah.
And you know, me and my wife had just got married. I'm like, I'm finna, you know, and I went down there and got humbled. And then I was like, man, I can't do this. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Like knowing what I know now, being a guy that's done this for a living,
Yeah.
literally, I did not pass the athleticism
Yeah.
test
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you can only go so far when
Yep.
you're limited athletically, right?
Mhm.
So what happened for me was after that, you know, coach gave me an opportunity to be a grad assistant,
Yeah.
Nice.
and you know, I took advantage of it. I
Here?
did, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I was
nice.
grad assistant after my senior year, and then our coach had a little scandal, and then our assistant coach Joey Anders was promoted to head coach, and then Joey brought me on as an assistant coach.
Nice.
So then I did that for another year, and then what happened for me, man? It kind of shaped the trajectory of my life. Tony Massa was our center, 6'8", about 240, and he was a dog, bro. Like he should not have been playing with us. So then Tony transferred to Kansas State, and when Tony got done playing, then he asked me to help him.
Yeah.
Because I was here in Sacramento and I was opening up the gym for these guys to play. Kenny Smith, Ed Pinckney, LaSalle Thompson, Otis Stoll. That's how I started. Those was all my guys. So they're like, yo, Gusso's opening up the gym. We all gonna be up there. Kevin Johnson was in high school.
Yeah.
And it had just went to Cal. So we all in here bumping.
Let's go.
So
And-
before the run at UCLA, you was having that right.
Well, we was in there bumping, and then, you know, the guys started asking me, and let me backtrack. So I had a foundation of player development and not really knowing it because I like kind of made myself a player. So I grew up on an Air Force base. I had access to a gym, so I was just working on my own stuff.
Yep.
One of my buddies, Kurt Robinson, played at Metro State. So then the guys started asking me to work them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. So then Tony needed help, and I hooked up Tony with an agent. And then it was just like,
You just fell into a bucket of glitter on your own.
I really think God set me up, man, because it was, you know, there was no player development. You know, I basically was a consultant before I even knew what a consultant was.
Right.
And then people just started, and because I ran the pro-am,
Right.
people just started coming to town. And hey, man, I'm gonna go out there and work out with Guss.
That's wild.
So that was
That's
you
dope.
know, that was, you know, Mitch. There was days at the Salvation Army, Brent Berry was in there, Chris Mullen, Brian Grant.
Come on.
And it just evolved, man.
And I used to hear about those stories from Damon
Yeah,
Edwards.
yeah.
Damon
Yeah.
Edwards is a former Sac State alum here too, and he used to tell me about the Salvation Army and how he used to be cracking up in there.
Man, it was insane. It was really insane. Like the guys, and you know, Henry Turners of the world, and just so many really good players. But Tony was the first Sac State guy that you know, as far as my memory, that went to super high level in Turkey.
Yeah.
And then he made a lot of money in Israel. And he was a, you know, like made money playing ball.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that was kind of how I got set up into this thing, man.
That's crazy. I mean, and player development wasn't a thing. You were called to it. You were great at it from the beginning, and it became a thing when you can get all these players together, and then somebody puts the trust in you to have you push them to get to the next level. And so, you know, for the people, not everybody's going to know your story. You know, you train pros all day, every day, and have for 30 plus years, man. And put into context how many people you've like been training, been part of their journey. Can you even quantify that? You might not be able to.
I mean, I would have to go back. Well, it's really, I'm snitching on myself.
Yeah.
How old I am is basically what I'm doing. But I would have to go back and really like
Of
look
course,
at it.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because just in my mind I'm thinking, you know, Mitch and Brian Grant and you know, the organic way that God blessed me with this stuff. I mean, I was at Salvation Army one day, and this guy walks in the gym, and I really didn't recognize him. And then when I got a little closer, he just said, "Hey man, how you doing?" He said, "My name's Bobby Jackson. The Kings told me to come down here." The Kings told me to come down here and get with you.
Wow.
And I was with Bobby like his whole career.
That's wild.
So yeah, so there's so many guys, man, that God has blessed me to help.
Yeah,
And I see it as you know, it's a ministry for me.
for sure.
You know, because I feel like a lot of players when they're trying to go pro during those times, it's like no blueprint for that.
Yeah.
So you really needed to find somebody like, hey
Mm.
man, how do I even do that? So that's really how it happened for me, man. It was super organic, and then also just so many guys that I just got to bless, man.
Yeah.
Like Festus, I met Festus, and
Mm.
he's 16 and
Yeah.
got cut at Jesuit,
Yeah.
and he comes in the gym, and you know his guy Keith Ottiser, my guy, brought him to me. He's like, Gus, man, I want you to help this kid.
Mm.
And man, they laughing at Fest in the gym.
That's wild.
Like, man, this dude's terrible, Gusto. Man, it was one day I saw it. I was like, he coming.
There it is. There it
He
is.
said, that's 7-1.
Right.
Man,
And
Yeah,
first
you
round
can't
pick.
teach no height.
that's
First round pick. So yeah, you know, like Joseph said, it was the Salvation Army portion of my career. But then when it moved over to basketball town, it was just, man, like, I think it just like a spark.
Yeah.
So, you know, Andre Miller, JaVale McGee, Ryan Anderson,
yeah.
you know, Oak Ridge High School.
Yeah.
Met him when he was a 10th
Yeah.
grader. And it was just a place, man. So sometimes, Joe knows, sometimes it's 2 courts.
Yeah, we running.
We going. It's 20-something guys in there. And then I think really the thing I've been able to do and I appreciate is that there's a culture, what I do, and everybody that's in there understands what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember going in there, especially at basketball town. I was done here at Sac State, and obviously Bobby Jackson was up in there.
Mike Wilkes.
Mike Wilkes, I was in Mike
Yeah.
Wilkes. Damond would be up in there. I remember Greg Ostertag was up in there one time. Matt Barnes,
Mhm.
and that's when you really got to put yourself in, you know, perspective of like, do I really want to do this? Because I'm over here getting crossed by, you know, Bobby Jackson. He posted me up, and I'm taller than him, and I'm like, really? Like for game, you just gonna post me up like
Man.
that?
Yeah.
But also too with like, you know, transforming, like rewinding to your time here, and then looking at how the culture was when you were here,
Mhm.
and to really say when Katz was here,
Mhm.
and when Coach Katz was here. Do you feel like your involvement with Sacramento State was like received well when it came to that with other coaches up to Cats?
Yeah. Well, yeah. After Joey was here, I think Abeta Marco came after that. I want to say, or Jerome Jenkins.
Jerome was after Baltimore.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Joe, like the reason there was kind of a connection was because I used to do stuff down at the North Gym down here.
Yeah.
So that's where you know a lot of times we were training here, so there was somewhat of a connection. And then the guys that had those aspirations, they would kind of find me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think there was a connection. But with Coach Katz, I think it became more solidified because I think Brian was aware of my history, and then I was able to help that generation of guys. I mean, Jamil.
Right.
I mean, it's just so many.
Yeah.
You know, so many of the guys, and a lot of the guys went overseas and started, you know, building, you know, careers
Yep.
that kind of set them up for the rest of their life. So, yeah, but with Katz, it was more, you know, McKinney and Marcus and
Kenny's.
Joshua Patton and, you know, Cody. All these dudes are still
Yes,
playing.
exactly.
Yeah, all these dudes are still playing, and then they're with me every day
Yeah.
and just kind of doing their thing. So there's a long history of guys from Sac State that have been able to, you know, play professional basketball.
Big time. And let's talk about that history. I think that's one of the things that we notice when we walk in here. We don't get to see it anymore. There's a lot of history, and if you don't celebrate it, if you don't put it out there, nobody knows about it. Sacramento State should have a lot of pride. There's a lot of things to look forward to going forward, but what about that history and how it should be intertwined? What's your 2 cents on that, man?
Yeah, well, I think you know, you have to have the history of a place to have the totality of how successful the place has been.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, you know, looking in here, you know, I don't see much history. You know, there's some stuff that was up here that's not up here anymore.
Yeah.
And there's some stories that are phenomenal stories.
Mm-hmm.
Christy Ryan led the nation in scoring from Sac State. 28.5
Forgot
points a
about that.
game, led the nation in scoring.
Oh,
She had 50 at Irvine one night. 50, a small forward from Sac State.
that's crazy.
So that's something that everyone should know, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know what has to happen, or I think, there's been some people that have tried to maintain that, but this definitely has to be celebrated. As Sac State goes on to the next level, that shouldn't be forgotten. That Cody Demps was the only Sac State guy to get called up to the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people should know that.
Right.
100%.
I think.
100%.
That's why, to the question of like the culture here at Sac State, it's been roller coasters. And as far as certain time eras of when we won games, gone to Big Sky Conference, because it's totally different now when it comes to the Big Sky Conference. Because when we were in Big Sky Conference, there was no like neutral site where you can go to, and that's where the tournament is at. Before it was like, I remember because D-Lam, they were the first team to make the playoffs, but they played at, I think it was in Montana. And that was the first round of the playoffs. But now the first round is played at a neutral site or some kind of convention center or whatever. And then the following year we made the conference playoffs, and it was the first time we hosted a playoff game here at Sac State. So, and I don't think that's ever happened since because the whole format has changed.
Right.
But as far as with the culture of, winning games, because obviously that's when you get the notoriety.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that need to be addressed because I told you earlier about, I kind of had a bone to pick with, how they were appreciating us and appreciating the history. And, they had alumni games and all that, but it still just wasn't enough. You still didn't feel like embraced.
Yeah.
What do you feel that needs to be done to, kind of capture that essence?
Yeah, I think the school should have a healthy relationship with the players. It's just that simple, because there's a lot of us that are still here.
Yep.
Right.
And I think there's been times where they've tried to do that, but I think it should be a priority. To connect back with the players. A lot of times I'll see you guys. We'll sit on the baseline, and that should be a huge part of what's going on here at Sac State. I think Coach Katz probably did
he
decent
did
enough
the
job.
most.
Yeah, of trying to do that, but a lot of us, Sac State has a lot to do with our lives.
Big time.
Right?
Big
I know,
time.
because I met my wife walking down this hallway.
That's wild.
I mean, I stalked her.
Yeah.
but that's the first. That's the first. I saw her coming out of exercise class, and I was like, "Whoa." You know what I mean? Like 38 years later, and 4 kids and 11 grandkids.
Yeah.
That all started right here at Sac State.
Amazing. And that's the crazy part about it, man. There's 2 Sac State Hall of Famers here, and I'm not one of them. The fact that you guys
we'll work on that.
All I'm saying is, if the Hall of Famers feel that way, that's where the biggest problem is.
Yeah.
That should be the first celebration, is the people who are, in that Hall of Fame category. Yeah. So that's a big thing going forward. So I fully agree. I hope some of the stuff that we talk about here can start to spark some of that stuff. But we can transition. Told you weren't going to keep you super long here, man. We got a lot of exciting things going.
Hey, can I go back to something?
No, you 100% don't.
Okay, so my senior year. My senior year at Sac State. No, it wasn't my senior year. The first year I coached at Sac State. That team was, I think they were 22-7. Number 1 seed in the Western Regionals. So when we played here, I remember one night we were playing Chico, and the fire marshal cut the line off.
That's wild.
So where the athletic office is now?
Yeah.
That used to be the health center.
Oh yeah, it was.
Right. So the line was from here to the health center.
What?
And we had bleachers all along the side here. Standing room only every time we played. Every time we played it. So Rob Martin, number 1 in the country in 3-point shooting. Alex Williams, number 2.
Wow.
We led the nation in 3-point shooting. Chris Farr averaged probably 10 assists. Sean McClendon and Sean Smart rebound, catch lobs. This place was packed.
Come on, man.
And people don't even know that, bro.
They never told us about stuff like
Really?
that. Never.
That's the history of Sac State.
That's
it's
wild.
it's sad to hear it. It's like obviously 30 plus years
Mhm.
later. And before we let you go, talk about your like when Bibby got hired
Mm-hmm.
and the news came about Shaq being the general manager.
Mhm.
Talk about how that made you feel when it obviously being Hall of Famer alumni here.
Well, I mean, anything that benefits Sac State, man, I'm down for it, man.
Yeah.
And obviously, if athletics is a core to the college experience, right?
Right.
And we've all experienced
Yep.
that.
Right.
So, whatever we can get to bring notoriety, I mean, the biggest thing in what I have to deal with when I'm dealing with the basketball world all these years, I mean, it's such a negative perception of the gym
Right.
and the facilities.
Yeah, that's exactly
and,
what
and,
we're
and
talking
you know what I'm
about.
saying? So, and that's kind of what it is, man. We shouldn't have to. We're recruiting a kid, and you kind of got to walk by the gym real quick.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we can't do that. So that's got to change.
It has to.
But these big names and these hires should help elevate,
No
Right.
question.
Sacramento State to where
And to get the local kid, here in
get the local
Sacramento.
kids. Yeah, there's been a lot of guys from here that have had amazing careers, but a lot of them did it at colleges other places.
No doubt.
you
No
know,
doubt.
So there are guys in this cats like to joke that he was the first one to offer Gabe Vincent.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? But Gabe went to Santa Barbara. So
Yeah.
so we got to get Sac State and hope Sac State gets to a place where, to your point, Joe, that you can keep some of those kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's something here to offer them.
Yeah, 100%. It never made sense for me. We'd roll out to Idaho State, and there'd be some cat from either Sacramento or the Bay Area killing us. Like, why would you ever go to Idaho State over here? The facilities were a big portion of it, so I'm really excited. We're in the place that we're at. Actually, when I got here, the first 2 years we played at Memorial Auditorium, so
Yeah,
I
I
actually
remember
only
that.
played
I
2
remember that.
years
I remember
here.
that.
But I'm really excited about the Well being able to be put to a new home for basketball. I think it's going to really change the feeling, the vibe, the culture, and everything. It's been something that you can be proud of, so you don't have to scoop by when you're on the recruiting trip and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's exciting times for us, man.
Definitely, man.
Yeah, man. So, man, really, really appreciate you coming on and giving us a little bit of insight of what's
problem, brother.
going on up until this point, and we get a chance to celebrate a little bit of it with this, man.
Right. Appreciate y'all, man.
Gus, thanks for your time, man.
My man.
Appreciate it.
Good stuff.
All right, good. Appreciate it.
Again, want to thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to definitely have some more former Sac State Hoopers, so we can capture these stories of the history of Sacramento State. And we're going to be signing off on this portion of it. Again, I'm Joseph Doss from Open Gym Live.
Rene Jacques with Legacy Lounge Podcast.
Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Stingers up.